Hi there, traders. This is Brad Goodwell with today's trading action. All right, if we just come to the charts just quickly, or just come back over to the news, actually, the market is just getting still waiting for this US government shutdown to happen. Everything looks like it's going to, but the markets, I can tell you what, just aren't moving just at the moment, right? And this is where they are going to move quite quickly is when the US numbers come online. Now, at the moment, you're starting to get a bit of movement. Now, there is still a downward bias here on sterling. And that's going to be important because we've got UK GDP numbers, manufacturing production numbers later today. Aussie wants to go up, but it just hasn't got the driver yet. And Kiwi was just sort of tinkering away following the Aussie dollar. Dollar CAD a little bit lower. And the beast, well, it continues higher, and you got dollar Swiss going down. So we're starting to get a bit of a separation there in the safe havens, the Swiss and the yen, right? But let's just focus on what we should be looking at today because there's some really good data coming out, right? So if I just come over to trading economics, just give you a quick look overview. We got the Aussie employment numbers. Now we saw it impact with the UK and Canada just recently. So we are going to be looking at these numbers quite closely. Then you got the GDP or the numbers out of the UK. Now, before I go into each component, you've got to be thinking sterling Aussie is going to be in play here, right? We got, say, weaker Aussie numbers and stronger sterling numbers where you get a really good, easy trade and vice versa. But let's just go into the Aussie numbers because there's a little bit to this. Now, if we just you should be coming to the interest rate tracker first, right? And what we're trying to work out is how the market is positioned. Most likely 82% on hold. Okay, so they're thinking nothing happens. What could change that picture and see a big movement there? Well, quite simply, weaker numbers. Weaker numbers will see that number back out and put pressure on the RBA to cut rates. Now, how do we know that? Well, that's how the market's geared up, but it depends on how much their variant is, if that's going to happen. And that's where the low and the high of the range of the forecast comes into play. Employment plus 20,000, 7.5 to 45. Unemployment rate is 4.4 with 4.3 to 4.5. So if we're going to see a big shift in the market, right, and that 82% that think the market's on hold, or that's what's factored in, we need weaker numbers. And generally, either weaker numbers, well, not there, over here, like a bigger unemployment rate, 4.5 or above, and below 7.5, we get like a situation where, boom, the pressure is on the RBA to cut rates, and the Aussie will tumble, right? So this is one of those numbers that you can look at quite closely. And you know what? I was just sort of looking across the Aussie crosses, right? And it's a bit of a mixed bag. Okay, the Widowmaker, Aussie Kiwi, still treading high, but sort of drifting sideways. Aussie Swiss not going too far. Aussie Yen, the beast, still driving it higher. And then you got Euro Aussie, sort of sideways, ready to go either way. Sterling Aussie downside looks really good. I'd be looking to sell sterling, but it might be a situation where we've got weak sterling and weak Aussie data, right? So I don't know if that's going to be sort of anything worthwhile. Aussie CAD, like Euro Aussie, it's sitting there ready to go either way, to be honest. So now this is a hard one because it's like we want to get into the trade, right? But there's a couple of different pieces of data. So you can be looking to go in with, I was talking to Lee earlier, he mentioned he was looking at Gorilla Trader, getting into Euro Aussie on a move to the top side. Now, just keep the trade size small. I know a lot of brokers, have tight rates, but when it comes to movement, those rates are only good for like one or two lots tops, right? Even if you're trying to trade 10, you're not getting set. So, but that does look good. I'm thinking the employment numbers are got to, like everything else is bad, right? And we saw this in Canada. We just need the numbers to drop. Now, is there a chance these numbers come out strong? Well, there is, but it's pretty minute, okay, in my opinion. Let's just have a look, see what's going on. Like against the dollar, if you're trading the Aussie against the dollar, right, it's sort of, it's ready to go up, but the market isn't really buying in yet, right, with the US dollar numbers. What's the US dollar really doing? Is it going up, going down? No one's putting money on the table at the moment. But you know what? If we did get stronger numbers, the general sort of movement is up. If we got really horrible numbers, well, then the Aussie is going to move down. Now, there's more liquidity in the Aussie against the dollar, right, than the crosses. So you got to sort of weigh up. Okay, where can I get in here? What's logical? What looks good? And where things are. To me, it's a bit of a no-brainer. Just come back to the live signals. Okay, Aussie at the moment, it's bullish, right, against the dollar, against the US dollar. So that could be something to look at. More liquidity on that pair. Euro Aussie, okay, bullish. Okay, that's something there as well. Sterling Aussie bearish, right? Once again, this is like, it's very rare to see euro and sterling moving in opposite directions, but that's actually exactly what's happening at the moment because of the UK dire situation there. Everything looks pretty terrible. So euro Aussie, I've got to agree with Lee. That looks like probably the best. Okay, I'm sort of banking on weaker numbers. So let me just put that out there. I'm not sort of thinking the Aussie employment numbers are going to be great. From what I can see on the streets, they are not looking good. So I'm looking for, weaker numbers. Okay, so above 4.5 would be great, and below 7.5, that's two weaker outcomes, and you're going to get that movement in the currencies, right? Trading the dollar, I think you could Aussie against the dollar, but just be aware as you go probably through the European session, you're probably closing that out because, there could be anything coming out of the US at the moment. Okay, so that's where we are, guys. It's pretty interesting for the Aussie. And sorry, just come back to the UK numbers. Keep an eye on the GDP numbers. They are sort of in play at the moment, right? And with everything going a little bit tits up in the UK, it's well worth a look. So once again, sterling is going down. Industrial manufacturing output. These are numbers, right? So keep an eye on these numbers. You can see the range here, -2.5 to +0.2. We want weaker numbers to get into a sterling trade because at the moment, you got the year on year, the prelim year on year, year on quarter. There's a lot of numbers, right? A lot of GDP numbers coming out. Weakness goes with what is happening in the UK, and we'll see sterling fall off the face of it. So I'm really looking for sterling to be a great trade, selling sterling against all the other crosses, right? Makes good sense to me. That's just the way of it at the moment. All right, so have a look at the signals, look at the numbers, interest rate tracker. This gives us the clue here, right? 3.6, 86%, right? Factoring in a hold. So you know what? Weaker numbers changes that, and that's why the Aussie moves, okay? And if we're having a look at that as well, if I just scroll up a touch, come to the Bank of England, 3.75%, 96%, okay, cut, right? Weaker numbers, it's like confirms it, but is sterling going to keep going down? Not much, because it looks like the whole market is already short. In actual fact, the real odd one here, if we got strong numbers in the UK, which I cannot see, then we would see probably a bigger move topside because most of the market is sitting short, waiting for, the cut to sort of come about. All right, guys, that's it from me. Interest rate trackers where the answers are. Look at the signals, identify the setups, and then let's see what we can do here with the numbers. As I said, keep an eye on the range. We're looking for like the best move to me. These are your forecasts. I was going to say the best move for me is I'm looking for weaker numbers. Don't rule out stronger ones, but I can't see it going too much higher with that sort of outcome. All right. Okay, guys, have a good one. All the best. Cheerio.